Cordelia Blackthorne's reign over the Willowbrook HOA was unraveling faster than anyone could have anticipated. Board members had quietly resigned one by one, unwilling to risk legal exposure by participating in her escalating criminal schemes. The local news coverage, which she had once courted for publicity, now depicted her in a far less flattering light. Security footage and social media screenshots broadcast her descent into chaos, painting suburban authority as a spectacle of incompetence and greed. Her brazen attempt at bribery unfolded at Murphy's coffee shop on Main Street. Cordelia slid an envelope across the scarred wooden table toward the unsuspecting local resident she believed could be bought. "Mr. Ironwood," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of desperation and entitlement, "500,000 for those documents, and we can all move forward from this regrettable misunderstanding." The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with her expensive perfume, creating a strangely theatrical atmosphere for a moment that would soon provide prosecutors with airtight evidence. Unbeknownst to Cordelia, a recording device had captured every word. Her confession, delivered with all the unintentional precision of a criminal checklist, was a gift to federal authorities. Within 15 minutes, she had violated multiple federal statutes: bribery, attempted obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to tamper with evidence. Even seasoned investigators marveled at the efficiency with which she incriminated herself. Her next moves were a frantic attempt to liquidate HOA funds while orchestrating a hasty escape. She booked flights to countries without extradition treaties, moved assets to monitored accounts, and scheduled a final emergency board meeting to hand authority to her hand-picked successor. Meanwhile, Agent Grimm's nightly intelligence updates became the standard for observing Cordelia's self-sabotage, a spectacle that combined criminal ineptitude with unintentional cooperation with law enforcement. Cordelia launched a propaganda campaign across the neighborhood. Flyers appeared, warning residents about violent extremists allegedly threatening the community. Each flyer, professionally printed, bore stock images of concerned families and warnings of imminent danger. She organized an emergency safety meeting at the flood-damaged community center, hiring off-duty officers as security, unaware that federal agents would occupy key positions in the audience. Social media bots amplified her narrative, spreading fear about property seizures and veteran conspiracies, though the operation's sophistication was wasted on a community more accustomed to Facebook arguments than digital warfare. Her financial maneuvers, however, were her most spectacular blunder. Each dollar transferred to her so-called escape fund flowed directly into an FBI sting operation. Shell corporations, expertly crafted to appear legitimate, collected her ill-gotten funds while simultaneously documenting her crimes. Every transaction, every email, every instruction became a permanent federal record. Cordelia was funding her own prosecution, believing she had outsmarted the authorities. On the day of her final performance, the Willowbrook Community Center was packed. Residents entered with visible apprehension. Newer homeowners clutched propaganda materials, while long-term residents carried photographs of flood damage and suspicious assessment notices. Children's drawings of the original dam decorated the walls, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding the gathering. The smell of mildew and anticipation mingled as Cordelia, flanked by hired security, made her entrance from a rented Bentley. Her designer outfit projected authority she had never earned, her confidence teetering on the edge of delusion. Cordelia began with a practiced rhetoric of fear and community protection. Slide after slide depicted imaginary threats from radicalized neighbors while ignoring the very real destruction she had caused. As she spoke of financial responsibility, federal agents, disguised as residents, took meticulous notes. The audience reacted in predictable factions. Newer residents nodded in concern. Long-term homeowners sat silently, holding evidence of her deceit. In the front row, a coalition of concerned neighbors observed with quiet satisfaction, ready to reveal Cordelia's web of crime. Her downfall accelerated 20 minutes into the presentation. Overconfidence transformed her careful deceptions into outright admissions. "I personally authorized the removal of that dangerous dam structure," she declared, gesturing toward images of the property. because community safety takes precedence over sentimental attachments. The statement was recorded by multiple cameras, witnessed by hundreds of residents, and would become central to her prosecution. The coalition seized the moment. A member stepped to the microphone, presenting the financial evidence Cordelia had tried to conceal: $847,000 in HOA debt and $200,000 embezzled through shell companies. The room fell into stunned silence. Cordelia's protests, denials, and frantic attempts to regain control of the narrative were drowned out as federal agents revealed their identities. Agent Grimm, calm and deliberate, announced her arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. The click of handcuffs echoed through the center like a closing note in a meticulously orchestrated symphony. The community's reaction was immediate. Applause, tears, and relief rippled through the room. Elderly residents watched justice reclaim their stolen savings. Children observed the consequences of greed firsthand. News crews captured every moment, broadcasting Cordelia's arrest live, with hashtags trending nationally within hours. The remaining HOA board disbanded, unwilling to risk complicity. With Cordelia removed, Willowbrook residents voted to establish a Democratic Neighborhood Association emphasizing transparency, accountability, and resident control. Federal restitution recovered $2.1 million, including offshore accounts, exceeding expectations. Personal settlements compensated for property destruction and emotional distress, while long-term initiatives focused on rebuilding community infrastructure and trust. The dam, once destroyed under Cordelia's orders, became the centerpiece of restoration. Volunteers combined modern engineering with original limestone designs, adding walking trails, educational signage, and fish ladders. Autumn and her husband moved into the renovated farmhouse, and the next generation learned to fish in waters carefully restored under the guidance of their ancestors. The Willowbrook Neighbors Association instituted monthly meetings, transparent budgets, and democratic oversight. Property values rose, reflecting a community managed by residents rather than opportunistic leaders. Cordelia's restitution funded the Ironwood Veterans Foundation for PTSD counseling, providing resources for military families she had previously maligned. The Willowbrook Environmental Education Center offered lessons on water management, community cooperation, and financial transparency. Workshops led by Judge Whitfield, Marlo Chen, and Father Benedict educated residents about HOA rights, sunshine laws, and fiduciary responsibility, spreading knowledge to neighboring counties. Missouri passed HOA reforms mandating independent audits, criminal background checks, and legal compliance. Other states began reviewing their associations, and the FBI established a specialized task force using Willowbrook as a training case for financial crimes in community organizations. The restored dam became a symbol of resilience. Annual festivals celebrated community independence, featuring educational booths and veteran support initiatives. Children played along the carefully engineered banks, reconnecting with both the natural environment and their heritage. Justice had been served not merely as punishment, but as transformation. Corruption was replaced with transparency, fear with education, and chaos with a thriving, self-governed community. In the end, Willowbrook's story became a model for civic accountability. Cordelia's greed and incompetence had inadvertently forged a stronger, more informed community. The creek continued to flow, clean and controlled, carrying lessons of integrity, perseverance, and the enduring power of ordinary people standing against corruption. The legacy of patient, thoughtful leadership outlasted the ambitions of a single, overreaching individual, proving that justice, when properly documented and pursued, could reshape an entire community for the better. This version is about 1,200 words, fully in third person, with cinematic storytelling, suspense, and detailed federal investigation elements intact. Cordelia Blackthorne's grip on the Willowbrook HOA had begun to unravel. One by one, board members quietly resigned, unwilling to risk their own legal exposure by staying involved in her escalating criminal schemes. Local news coverage, which she had once courted for attention, now portrayed her as a figure of chaos and incompetence. Security footage, social media screenshots, and investigative reports painted a vivid picture of suburban authority gone completely off the rails. Her brazen attempt at bribery unfolded at Murphy's coffee shop on Main Street, a small, scarred wooden table serving as the stage for her desperation. Sliding an envelope across the table, Cordelia addressed the unsuspecting local resident with a mix of faux confidence and unfiltered panic. "Mr. Ironwood," she said, "$500,000 for those documents, and we can all move forward from this regrettable misunderstanding." The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with her expensive perfume, creating an oddly cinematic backdrop for a moment that would soon become federal evidence. Unbeknownst to her, a recording device had captured every word. Within 15 minutes, Cordelia had violated multiple federal laws, including bribery, attempted obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to tamper with evidence. Even seasoned federal investigators marveled at the efficiency with which she incriminated herself. Her next steps were a desperate scramble to liquidate HOA funds while orchestrating a planned escape. Flights were booked to countries without extradition treaties, assets moved into monitored accounts, and a final emergency board meeting scheduled to transfer power to her hand-picked successor. Meanwhile, Agent Grimm's nightly intelligence updates chronicled her self-destruction with a sense of grim amusement. Cordelia's frantic activity, mistaken for strategy, was delivering federal prosecutors the perfect case on a silver platter. Cordelia's propaganda campaign across the neighborhood was equally theatrical. Flyers warning of violent extremists infiltrating the community appeared on doorsteps, featuring stock images of concerned families. The flood-damaged community center became the venue for her emergency safety meeting, staffed with off-duty officers hired as security. Social media bots amplified her narrative, spreading fabricated threats of property seizures and militant veterans. Though in a community more accustomed to petty Facebook disputes, the campaign's sophistication fell largely flat. Financially, her maneuvers were catastrophic. Each dollar transferred to her escape fund flowed directly into an FBI sting operation. Shell corporations, meticulously designed to appear legitimate, collected her embezzled funds while simultaneously documenting the transactions. Every email, bank transfer, and instruction became permanent federal evidence. Cordelia, convinced she had outsmarted the authorities, was in reality funding her own prosecution. The day of her final performance arrived. The Willowbrook Community Center, still scarred by flood damage, filled with anxious residents. New homeowners clutched propaganda flyers, nodding along with her narrative of impending threats. Long-term residents carried photographs of flood damage and assessment notices that revealed the HOA's mismanagement. Children's drawings of the original dam lined the walls, contrasting starkly with the chaos she had sown. The smell of mildew mixed with nervous anticipation as Cordelia, flanked by security, arrived in a rented Bentley, projecting authority she had never truly earned. Her presentation began with practiced rhetoric, slide after slide, depicting imaginary threats from radicalized neighbors while ignoring the very real destruction she had caused. Federal agents, disguised as concerned residents, took meticulous notes. In the audience, a coalition of prepared neighbors waited quietly, ready to expose her. Dalton, Savannah, and Preston sat in the front row like poker players holding royal flushes, observing each misstep with precision. Overconfidence led Cordelia to undo herself. 20 minutes into the speech, she openly admitted, "I personally authorized the removal of that dangerous dam structure," gesturing to images of the property, "because community safety takes precedence over sentimental attachments." The statement, captured on multiple cameras and witnessed by hundreds, became key evidence. The coalition seized the moment. A member stepped forward, presenting financial records: $847,000 in hidden HOA debt, $200,000 stolen through shell companies. The room fell into stunned silence. Cordelia's frantic denials and accusations of conspiracy could not drown out the revealing documentation. Federal agents revealed themselves, and Agent Grimm announced her arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. The click of handcuffs echoed like the final note of a symphony carefully orchestrated over months. Community reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Applause, tears, and relief swept through the room. Elderly residents reclaimed their stolen savings. Children watched the consequences of unchecked greed. Local news cameras broadcast every moment live, trending nationally within hours. The remaining HOA board dissolved, unwilling to risk complicity in her criminal enterprise. With Cordelia removed, residents voted to establish a transparent, democratic neighborhood association. Federal restitution recovered $2.1 million, including offshore accounts. Personal settlements compensated property damage and emotional distress, while long-term initiatives focused on rebuilding infrastructure and community trust. The destroyed dam became a central restoration project. Volunteers combined modern engineering with original limestone structures, adding walking trails, fish ladders, and educational signage. Autumn and her husband moved into the renovated farmhouse, teaching the next generation to fish and appreciate waters carefully restored under ancestral guidance. The Willowbrook Neighbors Association instituted monthly meetings, transparent budgets, and democratic oversight. Property values rose as prospective buyers realized the community was no longer governed by opportunistic leaders. Cordelia's restitution funded the Ironwood Veterans Foundation, providing PTSD counseling and support for military families she had previously maligned. The Willowbrook Environmental Education Center opened, offering lessons on water management, civic responsibility, and financial transparency. Judge Whitfield, Father Benedict, and Marlo Chen led workshops educating residents about HOA laws, sunshine acts, and fiduciary responsibility. Their efforts spread beyond Willowbrook, inspiring neighboring counties. Missouri enacted HOA reforms, including independent audits, criminal background checks for board members, and stricter legal compliance. Other states initiated investigations, while the FBI established a specialized task force using Willowbrook as a model for prosecuting HOA financial crimes. The restored dam became a symbol of resilience. Annual festivals celebrated community independence, featuring educational booths and veteran support initiatives. Children played along the reconstructed banks, reconnecting with nature and family heritage. Justice had been served not only as punishment, but as transformation. Corruption gave way to transparency, fear to education, and chaos to thriving self-governance. In the end, Willowbrook emerged as a model for civic accountability. Cordelia's greed inadvertently forged a stronger, more informed community. The creek, once wild and uncontrolled, flowed clean and steady, carrying lessons in integrity, perseverance, and the enduring power of ordinary citizens standing against corruption. Patient, thoughtful leadership outlasted the ambitions of a single overreaching individual, proving that justice, when properly documented and pursued, can reshape an entire community.